court much like Obama. And Obama inherited 4 horsemen, and then 1 sort of half-horseman. Well, FDR inherited the same horsemen, and they stopped the New Deal legislation from going through. And so he had the right idea for the wrong reason. He was going to pack the court with his own justices. If you look at Court of Appeals, that are about 19 members, they rarely divide on the same judges. If you look at Court of Appeals, they do divide sometimes by 1 vote, but it is almost never consistent with a single judge. You might have 1 judge that does often end up as a swing vote on a criminal case if that's the way the court is divided, but it's almost unheard of in a Court of Appeals to have a single or even 2 swing judges because the mix changes. So it devalues the importance of justices. And if you know why they devalue the importance of justices? Because they don't deserve it. I mean, the fact is, you know, as much as I like many of the justices on the court, and I've said this before, they would not be the justices most lawyers would pick. I mean, let's be frank. I mean, many of these justices were selected because they had nothing in their history. They never had a single creative thought. and the senators are open about it. They go, well, this one's going to get through. There's nothing they can talk about. And so you had stealth justices. Now, sometimes stealth justices turn out really well. David Souter, I loved. I love David Souter, just because, first of all, he's one of the few justices in history that didn't think he was born to be there. He was the most self-deprecating justice we've ever had. And I got to tell you, that goes a long way with me. Souter, you know, the other thing is that Souter really was one of those judges who didn't want to be a celebrity. And he worked really, really hard on his opinions. But the fact is that these justices now are being selected for the world's worst reason. Because there's so few, we can't risk anything. So we can't get a Louis Brandeis. We will never get a civil libertarian on the court selected as civil libertarian. We will not get a civil libertarian. And no, I gotta tell you, I was very critical of Sotomayor. She was not a good selection for civil liberties if you look at her Second Circuit opinions. Particularly for free speech, it was a bloody nightmare. As for Kagan, I have no idea, and that's a problem. Okay, that's a serious problem when you're one of 9. So we select these people to be stealth justices, just to get them through. And it gets ludicrous because you've got a confirmation process that has become a scandal and a joke. You know, during Robert's confirmation, the first time I ever left the studio and refused to continue, I was working for NBC, and I just got up and we've been talking for the whole day about, you know, Dr. Zhivago and playing baseball. You know, the senators loved it, right? Dr. Zhivago, they understand. And so it kept on going, so you like Dr. Zhivago? Yeah. And I finally told my producer, can you be a movie critic? Okay? I am of no use to you. You know? But he still talked about it as the ideal confirmation. And Democratic senators said, well, you need a Roberts. Really? That whole confirmation hearing was devoid of substance. It didn't have a second of substance. You know, he showed up, and he's perfect, right? I mean, when he showed up with his 2.3 children, and they're in like saddle shoes, and they're adorable, and he's like perfect. I thought, oh my God, Karl Rove is raising these people hydroponically in their basement. He's producing family units, you know? And that's how it was. It was like, it was so robotic, and to avoid anything. And of course, the Democratic senators go by the Ginsburg rule. And Ginsburg did. It was a rule that existed before, but she sure made it her rule. You know, when she showed up and said, I'm not going to talk about anything I might have to rule on as a justice. Well, since you have a discretionary institution, wouldn't that be everything? And so she basically said, nah, you might be seeing that. I really have to talk about that. And the fact is is that Ginsburg, she should not have been confirmed. Robert should not have been confirmed. Thomas should not have been confirmed. Sotomayor, Kagan should not have been confirmed. Why? Because they didn't answer questions. That is, the American people have a right to know how you feel about Roe v. Wade. They have a right to know. That's not a small deal. And if you think that women don't have a right to choice, we'd like to know about it. If you think people can be tortured by the United States government, it's more important to us than how you feel about Dr. Zhivago. But the fact is, we don't ask those questions because none of the senators want to risk anything in these confirmations. And it is a kabuki dance. It is all wired. And so these people get through. Sometimes we end up lucky with Souter. Sometimes we end up not so lucky. And that will change if we decrease their importance. You go to 19 members, all presidents will get a nominee or two. And it'll be like a court of appeals. That nominee will not decide Roe v. Wade. How many nominations now have we looked at the nomination as to, will Roe v. Wade die with this one? Well, how can you possibly make a qualitative choice if you have to pick someone on whether one of the critical constitutional protections in our history would rise or fall with that nominee? It's impossible. And that will change if we increase. And by the way, if we increase the number of justices, they should go back to writing circuit because they are fossilized. They're awfully nice people, but they are so out of touch. It is not even funny. And the number of cases that they're taking is falling by the year. Robert's came in and said, no, we're going to start taking more cases. It's continued to fall. Where the number of cases they take is ludicrous now. I mean, they virtually do nothing during the year. We're getting to the point where they're doing 3 or 4 opinions each of any substance. Well, that's just crazy. And the reason is there's 9 of them, and so they all game the system. They don't take any case that they can't be sure of. That's why they take so many business cases, because it tends to be more in flux. It's not divided 5-4. So we end up, it's a great court for businesses, because business cases get accepted because the justices are not that concerned about how it goes one way or the other, and then torture, civil liberties. All the rest of them, no way, because you can't be sure of the outcome. So, the increasing of the judge will do a lot for us. But as you probably noticed, it hasn't gone anywhere. There are other proposals that are forward. One of them is the mandatory retirement for justices. And the age being put forward is 70. And I actually would have considered that an option, but the reason is really 3 words: John Paul Stevens. And actually, I said this in Milwaukee. I didn't think Stevens was in the audience, and I said, for most of his career, I thought John Paul Stevens' opinions were incomprehensible. But in the last 15 years, are some of the greatest opinions in the history of the court, and we would have missed that if we had mandatory retirement age. And then I looked up and I saw Justice Stevens, who, after the speech, I said, "Did you say incomprehensible?" Did I say incomprehensible or did I say comprehensible? But the fact is, John Paul Stevens became a magnificent justice in the final 10 or so years. And he matured in the court. And what's funny is I was asked recently to pick the 9 greatest justices of all time. And one of the things that I found in trying to come up with that tough list, and boy, it was tough, is that there was no rhyme or reason to their background. And indeed, everything that we do today in selection of justice would not have picked the 9 best justices. For example, it is a scandal that we have only Harvard and Yale grads on that court. It is an abomination. And I'm getting tired of all my friends and colleagues saying, well, this isn't a coincidence, it's a coincidence. And it just so happens. You've got to be kidding. You passed by Diane Wood, a brilliant civil libertarian on the 7th Circuit. For Kagan, Diane Wood has an absolute library of brilliant opinions, a proven scholar, proven jurist, and you went with an empty portfolio. and you're telling me that it's just an accident, I just don't buy it, okay? I'm from Chicago, we just don't buy those things, okay? But that's ridiculous. That we have only 2 schools represented. It's an insult to our system. But the lack of variety on the court is a reflection of how inbred it has become. So what I would suggest, and it's one of the reasons I like to talk about this to folks like yourself, is I'd like you to entertain the possibility. We're not going to change the Supreme Court unless people like you actually find this interesting enough to do something about it. There are members of Congress that are interested in doing it. I've talked to a lot of Democrats who would do it, except that they're afraid of the mischief that once you open this up, what other changes might come to play. Things like the mandatory retirement age. But I believe it's worth doing. And the reason is that we should not be happy today with our court, our Congress, our political system generally. We have a dysfunctional political system. We have a broken country. And I've never been more depressed in my life. And I'm talking about both the Republican and Democratic Party. Neither of them deserve our loyalty. And I'm saying that I'm disappointed with President Obama. Because civil libertarians have really been the ones that have borne the brunt of what I consider to be a deep betrayal by this administration. The fact that this administration has blocked torture investigations in violation of international treaties, has adopted virtually all the Bush policies, and in some cases expanded them, snuffed out ACLU cases across the country and other organizations, dozens of cases, fighting for privacy. And so while other groups may not be happy with Obama, we've got an axe to grind about what has happened around here. But that we have to deal with in another forum. We can make substantive changes in the Supreme Court to create an institution that is not so fossilized, and an institution where we can get the Louis Brandeis on. If there's 19 members, we can get a brilliant jurist on. Someone like that would have definitely gotten it. Harold Coe. The fact that President Obama would walk by Harold Coe, who's serving in his administration, one of the most brilliant minds of our generation, a great advocate for human rights, respected around the world. He's virtually working down the hall. And the fact that they would walk by Harold Coe twice not only shows the lack of support of this administration in civil liberties, but it also just shows how broken the system is. So my charge to you, if you let me give you a charge, would be to think a little bit about it. And maybe not be so gun-shy. That maybe we actually could make an institution we all love a little better with a little bit of reform. And I've been told to stop and to open up for questions. I'd be happy to talk about anything. Who's sleeping with who in Washington? Who's Robert sleeping with anything?